Well, welcome to our, I don't remember, the fifth or the sixth installment of our CCH2 data portal lunch break. Today, we're going to be talking about dealing with duplicates in CCH2. And by dealing with, I mean the tools that are available in CCH2 to help you manage duplicates and the data that comes with duplicates. So I'm briefly going to just define botanical duplicates because this is, as I have learned, a botanical thing, and it actually isn't shared in all collections, but I'm just going to talk about that. And then I'm going to talk about tools that can be used to link single duplicates, batch link duplicates, and then we have a cool tool that you can use for looking for instances in which a duplicate that you have has a different identification than a duplicate in another collection. So I'm going to talk about all of those briefly here. So botanical duplicates are specimens of the same taxon collected by the same person at the same time and the same place. So they're representatives of the same individual in some cases, or at least the population of that species in that place in that time. So that's what we mean when we say duplicates. So linking single duplicates is relatively straightforward. Here I am in CCH2, and I'm going to go into my profile, occurrence management, and then just open up a collection. And I generally use the individual linking tool when I am doing transcription or doing any sort of data entry from scratch. It really helps to be able to look for duplicates while I'm doing that, because then I can import the data straight in. It can also be helpful if you are looking for, or if you have already transcribed specimens, but they aren't necessarily georeferenced. Some other collections have already georeferenced those specimens, and so you can import their coordinates or their georeferences using the individual single linking tools. So I'm going to go into CCH2 and just open up. This is how I get to all the specimens that have not been transcribed, with a few exceptions. And I will just go to some random specimen here. And what you can do is when you have just a skeletal record or an empty record, you can look at the image. Or if you don't have an image and you have the specimen right there in front of you, you can look at the specimen. And I have a feeling this one's going to be a little bit different, but in general, you can enter the collector name, the collector number, and the date of collection. And you can click this duplicates button, and it's going to search by collector last name, number, and date. If you click this auto search, that means that every time you enter collector number and date, it's going to search for duplicates and open up a pop-up window if they exist. And what this does is not only search for that collector number, but it will also search for about 5 numbers up and 5 numbers down. And the reason for that is because you might have duplicate collecting events that don't represent true botanical duplicates, but they might have the exact same locality data, so you could still import those data into your record. Super useful to decrease typing. So I'm going to click duplicates here, and I kind of suspected this might happen. Oh no, that's a different specimen. So what we have here is a possible exact duplicate. That means that CCH2 found an exact match of last name, collector number, and date. And then it's going to show me that record right here. And I can, this one is saying that, hey, we even found that this is in your collection, and you might have already transcribed this, and that this might be just like a duplicate that's not actually a duplicate specimen, but like a misduplicated record. And so you would look at this and you could say, oh, let's see, that's the same species, it's the same collectors, it's the same place. So these are likely duplicates, but you can see that they have different catalog numbers. And so if we go to this record, open that up, we can see that that specimen is indeed different. We just look at it out like that, than this specimen. And these are true botanical duplicates. So they are just the same species, it's the same population. So what I can do is, I'm going to click on duplicates again, just to get back to this possible exact duplicate screen, is I can click this transfer all fields or transfer to empty fields only. And that's going to transfer all this data that's right here into my form over here. And if I keep this box that says link as duplicate checked, then it's also going to, in the back end, say, hey, these two catalog numbers, these two records, they are true botanical duplicates. They are linked on the back end. So I'm going to click transfer to all fields, and it nicely just pulled everything in. Because this does not look only at your own collection, it also looks at all collections in CCH2. Sometimes you might have to do a little bit of editing or surveying to make sure that everything is in the right fields, because some collections have put things in different fields in the past. And so we usually recommend that anyone who's doing data entry or transcription and using the duplicate harvesting tool looks over all these blue fields, because these are the ones that were populated automatically, and make sure that everything matches. I'm happy with this, so I'm going to just say save edits, and I have connected these duplicates and imported all these data. Now we can look at the duplicates that this specimen is linked to by going into the linked resources tab. And then you can see where it says specimen duplicates, it has been linked to this particular specimen, which is the one that we looked at previously. So if you ever want to look at whether there are botanical duplicates for a specimen in CCH2, you can look at that linked resources tab. And I believe that is also shown in the, yeah. So this is the public display. This is like how a member of the public would see the specimen. And they too can go to the linked resources tab. Oh, sorry, duplicates tab, and look at the duplicates that are there. So in the public display, it's a little bit fleshed out between duplicates versus other linked resources. But if you're just in the occurrence record, then you have linked resources is where you find both of those types of information. And so there are other ways, other duplicate types that can show up. So if I do this search, it looks like there's another exact duplicate, and I might not be able to find one right now. These are all exact duplicates. Oh, here's one. So here's an example where it's a possible matching duplicate event. And we can see that it took Hazelbrook 192 and it went up, and looks like we only went down at this point in this case. And so we could, while we were transcribing this, if all these fields were blank over here, look to see if the data right here are the same as the data right here, and we could transfer at least 2 empty fields. If it's a duplicate matching event, it will not pull in the scientific name because it's assuming that they're not true botanical duplicates. And then it will import all of those data. So as I mentioned before, another way that we can use this is to look for coordinates. So if I just open up a specimen that doesn't have any coordinates, and let's try to find one that might have some coordinates here, and I look for duplicates, you'll see that here's an exact duplicate. However, I don't see any coordinates listed, so there are no coordinates that I can import. So that's a little sad. But you can keep on looking. So here's a copy that's at, well, these are events, but potentially at Cal Academy, and some within my own collection. There's another one at Cal Academy. But you can see here that this one has some coordinates here. So I can say, is this the same locality data as what's on here? It's not, so I wouldn't import these coordinates. But if it were, I could click transfer to empty fields only, and that would bring in the new coordinate data. Okay, so that's how you can link single duplicates. And as I mentioned, that's useful for importing already transcribed data and georeferences. And now let's talk about batch linking. Batch linking is very easy. You just go to collection management and then scroll down to your administration control panel and click duplicate clustering. And then all you do is click this button here. And what it's going to do is crawl through your whole collection and look for things that have the exact same value for collector last name, date, and collector number. So I think I've already run this pretty recently, but oh, here we have a few. So this found for this date, it found that the last name Wolf had one that was 2052. And it found that there was another specimen somewhere in the entire CCH2 that has that exact same date, collector, and last name. So it looks like it linked it here to the San Diego Natural History Museum Herbarium. And lo and behold, there we can see our big old cluster. It looks like we have all these coreopsis. And this one has a little bit of wonky identification, but that's not necessarily a problem with the duplicate. That's just the data. But all of these coreopsises that were collected on the same day and we're all representing the same population are now clumped together. So you can see that there's actually quite a few duplicates of this one collection. So then what you can do to just view these clusters in the future is if you go back to duplicate management, you can click specimen duplicate clusters. And it's not a super user-friendly interface right now, but it's going to list all the clusters by the last name, collector number, and the date. And you could see, you can look at all of these clusters. All right, and then furthermore, there is a tool that allows you to look at mismatched duplicate identifications. So any cases in which you have a duplicate that has a different identification than another duplicate in another collection. And so you do that by going into my profile, occurrence management, back to your administration control panel. And same place, the duplicate clustering tool. And then there's a tool, you probably already saw this, specimen duplicate clusters with conflicted identifications. So if you click on that, then it's going to show you all these clusters. And in fact, I have 1,800 of them that have different identifications at different locations. So we can see here that the Cal Poly Carex abrupta is called Carex macloviana by this UCR collection. And you can see that this was annotated in 2013. So in this case, maybe I have the most up-to-date annotation. And so that's good. But there are probably other cases, and it looks like I have one right here, where I have an older identification in my own collection than some other collection. And so you could see that this could be useful in the future if you have the time to go in and do a data quality check and look for anything that needs to be annotated, especially if you have like some Carex SPA and someone else has come and identified it at a different institution, then it can be really helpful for you to take advantage of some Carex specialists that they had at their institution, and you could put an annotation label on your specimen saying, identified via duplicate, and any information like that. So those are the general tools that you can use for doing duplicate clustering and importing data from duplicates, viewing different identifications. And I did want to make one more note of good news. Is one thing that I mentioned was being able to gather georeference data from duplicates. And right now in CCH2, you can only do that record by record, like you have to look at each individual record and pull in the georeference data. But about a year ago, maybe two, we developed a code that you can use to, it leverages all those batch or all of those duplicate clusters. And then it pulls out any georeference data that's associated with a duplicate that hasn't been applied to your specimen. And it puts it in a big spreadsheet, and you can decide whether you want to keep any of those, depending on like the metadata, like who georeferenced it, how big the error radius is, things like that. And then you can import those georeferences as a skeletal file, essentially georeferencing a bunch of your data using the duplicate data. So this currently runs outside of the portal, but the Symbiota team is actually working on an in-portal tool to do this. I don't know when it's going to be developed, but hopefully we'll be able to leverage the duplicate clusters a little more efficiently in the future to do some more like batch data entry and batch georeferencing stuff. So that's just some exciting news for the future. And if you think that you have a bunch of ungeoreferenced specimens that may have duplicates, feel free to get in contact with me and I can run that code for you and we can see if there are any georeferences that you can harvest and not have to do from scratch.